Sex trafficking isn't just a problem that happens in big cities. It affects small communities as well. In Wisconsin alone, Appleton is the third largest city for sex trafficking. With a problem so hidden, how can we stop the victimization of these women?
I met a young woman at my church, and the first time I saw her, my heart said, "That's a deep well." And I knew that there was more to her than just somebody that was sitting in church.
The world that I lived in was everybody lived together in one house. You had rules that you had to follow. You worked until you got the amount of money that the pimp demanded of you. Expectations are to follow the rules and then to make your quota. So if you have to make $1,000 a day, that's what you had to do, and any means possible, and then hand that over to him. If you were caught trying to keep the money, that could mean death or a severe beating.
Because we're on a main highway and there's lots of hotels here, it's very easy for prostitutes to move from Milwaukee through Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, Appleton, Green Bay, and move back and forth through those cities very actively.
When a child leaves their home, if they are on the street, within 48 hours, a pimp will already have them. Why? Because they are on the street, they look needy, they look desperate, and it's not hard to see a child that's on the street that's confused and alone. And a pimp will immediately go to them.
Before I got into this lifestyle, I was living in the Fox Cities. I had a pretty broken childhood. I was abandoned at a young age and adopted and then disowned and then in foster care, and then I just became a runaway. So while on the run, I got into law trouble. So that just made me run farther. I ended up in Milwaukee on the streets and fell prey to people who would benefit from my vulnerability.
When we arrest a prostitute, and the public has a hard time sometimes understanding why we arrest prostitutes if they are victims. Well, if they're not arrested, they can't get help. So I can't pull a prostitute off the street unless they're arrested. From that point on, we can work with the justice system after conviction to get them the help and the counseling and the therapy that they need to get out of the lifestyle.
As far as I know, there was no help for this situation. I would often, I wouldn't just outright call the police. I would, sometimes when they'd roll up on me on the street, and if they were nice and just talking to me, telling me to leave to the other side of town or whatever to get away from this neighborhood because I was causing attention. Sometimes they put me in the back of the car but just to talk to me. And every time that I was arrested, I would let them know, like, this is not my choice. Not to get out of my arrest, but to seek help, because now I'm separate. I'm away from him. I'm in a police station. I'm safe. You have to be able to help me here. And every time they released me right back out into right back into his arms. He would be in the waiting room outside the jail, and they knew he was the one either paying my bail, picking me up, and they never did anything.
We don't track the prostitutes after they're convicted and after they've gone through probation. I can tell you that we don't see a lot of repeat offenders in the Valley, which is heartening, because if we saw girls that were coming back time after time, that would be a concern.
My pimp Alex had many different women. We didn't all live in the same house. He usually kept like 2 or 3 girls together at one time. He separated us to keep us more under control. We weren't allowed to talk to each other, but we were bonded in a way that we knew. He made us all have the same tattoo. We would call each other sisters or wife-in-laws. Some girls were with him for a lot longer. They were very brainwashed into being in love with him. Some had children with him. The last time that I was with him, I had a son. My child was like 9 months old, and he would keep my son 6 days out of the week at one of the other girls' houses, and I was only allowed to see my child on Sundays. I was never allowed to be alone, and I was always with another girl. For about 3 months, I had been making between $1,200 and $1,500 a day, and one night I only came up with $200, and I got drunk. So the next day when he came to bring me my child, he just brought me my child and handed me the bag and left, and there was nobody else, and I knew something was different. He called me on the hotel phone and told me that the good news is I'm not kicked out of the family, but my son is. I'm a horrible mother. I can't take care of him. I'm irresponsible. He would be better off with another family. So he directed me to take my child to the hospital, fire station, or police station and leave him there. I said, okay. I hung up the phone and I called the police. I had told the police many times before about him, but I figured this time, because my child was involved, that they would help me. And at the time I had a warrant again for my arrest. And so I was scared that they would, find that out and I'd go to jail and I'd still lose my child, but I wasn't going to willingly hand my child and abandon him at outside of a police station. So I called the police and they did help. They took me to the police station and we spent the whole day there calling different places to try to find a placement for us. At that time, this was 2007, there were absolutely no safe houses, no facilities equipped to take in prostitutes running from their pimps. So I had to lie and say that I was in a domestic violence situation. Eventually, she was like, can you just tell, when they talk to you, just tell them that you were in a relationship with this man and he, abused you or whatever, your child. And so I did. And then I got into a domestic violence shelter. That was 5 years ago.
We have a small unit, that is our street crimes unit. I have 6 officers and myself, and we have to handle all the gangs, all the drugs, and all the prostitution in the city. So it's definitely a priority for us. I wish we had more time and more manpower, but we're actively conducting stings on johns, on prostitutes, and on pimps. We're prosecuting them, putting these individuals in prison when necessary.
Five Stones Incorporated started out that we were going to bring awareness to sex trafficking, but it was only going to involve minors because our children are extremely at risk of getting involved and easily talked into things. And now where we stand, as we're teaching awareness and as we're reaching out further, we realize that we're going to have to impact the entire community also toward the adult victims.
The impact that it had on me emotionally was that I pretty much detached from my situation. I didn't have much choices. I didn't have family at the time. I didn't have, I was in trouble with the law. My life was, a wreck. I was pretty hopeless. I didn't really think much about the future. I just thought about how I'm going to get through each day.
Within our community, if the women would rally and the women would work together to make a difference, if the men would open their eyes to the victimization, I believe we can make a difference. And the problem is, if we don't do something, we're going to drown.
Every day I feel very blessed that I'm not in that life anymore. But I also feel very sad because I know, all around me in this world that there are women out there still being victimized, still being trafficked, and they have no hope. And I know what that feels like. So it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart to know that there's not enough being done for them and that they need somebody to care. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like to sit there and scream for help and nobody answering that help. So.